Next is one of the free Operation Rainfall games and the one the least amount of people played. It's Pandora's Tower. Been 8 years since I've played this. We start viewing an extravagant harvest festival where our female lead Elena is singing. In the audience is the main character, Aaron, hiding beneath a hood. During the show, a strange mark appears on Elena's back and there's an explosion. Aaron charges towards it while a dark aura is seen behind the smoke. We next see Aaron taking Elena away while being chased by soldiers. They're signalled aside by an old woman, telling them to follow her. Go to the countryside where Aaron and Elena have been following the old woman. While they sleep, the old woman tells Aaron that if he doesn't act to help Elena, she won't be human much longer, she'll become a beast. After seeing Elena struggle in her sleep, we see them some time later. Elena is hiding beneath a robe and struggling to keep up. Eventually they reach their destination. The old woman points out the 13 towers, a huge building suspended in the air above a chasm by some giant chains. Elena trips and loses her robe, revealing the extent of her curse. The old woman takes him to the observatory nearby. She also gives Aaron a weapon called the Arachlos chain, saying he needs it to collect beast flesh for a ceremony to restore Elena's old self. Elena tells Mavda, the old woman, that she wants to go along, but Aaron tells her he'll be back. He jumps onto a chain and runs along it to the treetop tower. First thing I see is a statue holding a glowing chain. The statue is referred to as a god of Ios and has a symbol of wood. The way left is collapsed, so the only option is right. I can smash open chests and boxes for items. Here I just get 5 Leos, which is the currency in this world. I go through the first door I find on the right. In here I get more money and a dryad berry off the ground before going through the next door. A giant hornet appears only to get ambushed and smashed by our first enemy. These never actually named, just referred to as beasts. Here the game explains battle. I can block and dodge and hit. I have a standard combo with my sword, or I can hold the button to charge up a strong attack. When an enemy dies, it flashes red. I then aim the Arachlos chain at its body using the Wii remote or right stick if you're using the classic controller like me. It will latch onto the enemy's body and let me pull an item out, which in this case is beast flesh. It's still pulsating. Aaron decides it's time to go back. Back at the observatory, I enter and hand over the flesh. Mavda holds it out to Elena to eat. Elena is horrified. Mavda reasons it's because people who practice the religion of Ios, like Elena, are forbidden from eating meat. I think it's because it's giant, purple, slimy, raw and pulsating, but that's just me. I mean, I eat meat and I wouldn't touch that. Elena almost vomits, but Mavda pushes her to eat it. If she doesn't eat it, the curse will progress and she will fully become a beast with no chance of being cured. Elena gives in and forces herself to eat it, trying not to gag the entire time. Elena doubles over in pain as the curse reverses and slowly returns to her human form before passing out. We then get some information on this world.
In the heart of the continent of Imperia lies the kingdom of Illyria. At its remotest edge, hundreds of leagues from the capital of Helicon, a forbidding wasteland stretches to the furthest horizon, Orcanus. Deep within this desolate expanse where none may set foot, the earth has been torn asunder to form a rift extending over thousands of leagues, known simply as the Scar. At its center, suspended above this fathomless fissure, are the 13 towers. Towers of all sizes interlink and intertwine, each playing their part in the intricate design, fusing to become one single vast fortress. Held in place by 12 chains that grip the walls of the surrounding cliffs, the towers loom like a spider in its web, seeming to inhabit a space beyond the normal world. The bristling turrets of the towers serve a purpose. They bind the earth together, preventing the Scar from widening and tearing the world itself apart.
Elena wakes up the next morning, relieved to be back to normal. She thinks she's safe to go home now, but Mavda dashes those hopes, saying the curse has just been reversed a little, not lifted. As long as the mark on her back remains, she will stay cursed. Mavda lets me know that Elena isn't the first to be cursed, many have been taken by it before. Some were found by the Illyrian army and killed, others just became beasts. Mavda herself is of the Vestra, a race of travelling merchants. The decrepit old man stuck in a pot on her back is her husband, but only she can understand him. Beast flesh can only put off the curse. What Elena needs is to eat flesh from each of the 12 masters of the towers. Elena can't bear the idea that Aaron will have to put himself at risk for her sake, but it has to be done. Outside, Mavda tells Aaron that the Arachlos chain belongs to her people. She takes some of Elena's hair and fuses it with the chain. It ends up enveloped in a golden glow, binding the destinies of Aaron and Elena. The next morning I wake up and talk to Elena. Talking to her raises affinity, represented by the gold glow on the left of the screen. There are 10 levels of affinity, and you reach the next one when the glow reaches the next gold dot. This influences the ending, but I'm going for the worst ending first, which means neglecting poor Elena. I then go speak to Mavda. She tells Aaron to make himself at home and reminds him that the army is still after him. The Illyrian army used to use the observatory to watch over the towers. I can buy items from her, forge items with material collected in the towers, or use those same materials to upgrade my weapons, or I can just talk to her for little bits of lore. She also tells me that any leftover flesh I have she'll buy off me. No reason not to, because it will go off and there's nothing else to do with it. She also gives me my first file, a news report on the incident at the Harvest Festival. I save by writing in Aaron's journal and check out the rest of the house. I can go upstairs to the roof or downstairs into the cellar. Down there I find a lamp to give to Elena. I find the file restoring the chain. It says the chain's power can grow and isn't what it used to be. Next to the desk where I save is the trunk. I put the lamp in there for now so I don't raise affinity. I leave and run to the chain to set off back to the treetop tower. There is a round gauge that measures Elena's curse progress. It stays still in the observatory but empties in towers. It refills when she eats flesh. When the gauge starts to empty to the blue sections, she will start to transform again. Back in the first room on the right I meet a new enemy. Also unnamed, these small beasts just take a few hits to kill. You don't get flesh from killing these, just money and a couple other items. In the next room I fight another of the beasts I killed earlier and blind it by shooting the chains wrapped around its eyes. I also trip it by aiming at its feet. When it's dead I get more flesh from it. I also get a lump of metal from one of the boxes. I'll only bring up a random item in a box the first time I find it from now on. I move into the next room where I kill a couple hornets. I find the file Treetop in Bloom. It's from the perspective of someone discovering the things in this tower that we're about to see soon. Out of the other end of this room I cut the wood keeping this door leading to the entrance shut. I then get on this lift and hit the switch to set it off. Up here are a couple little beasts and a plant shooting seeds at me. One pull with the chain kills it and gets me some strange grains. One of the little beasts damages my dryad berry when hitting me. Any item aside from your weapons can be damaged and require paying Mavda to repair. After killing them I get nymph water from one of them. I then go through the door. More hornets in this room. I get my first bodily fluid from one. In the corner is the file Treetop Wasp Study about their nests. I go through the next door where the camera points out a glowing item across a gap I can't cross. But I can grab it with the chain. This is the warrior amulet. Equipping it increases my maximum health. In the next room I just drop down a little and climb to the next door. In this room is a honeycomb, a hornet's nest. It can spawn more hornets. After killing the hornets already there, I get to work destroying each segment of the honeycomb with charged attacks. When charging, if I let go of attack just as the blue ring closes on me, I perform a stronger attack. Once it's dead, I pull a dripping flesh from it. Dripping flesh restores more of Elena's curse gauge than regular beast flesh. On the other side of the room there's a red door I can't open and won't be opening for a long while, so I go through the door in the middle. This door leads to the giant upside down tree that has been growing from the top of the tower. I head up the stairs taking out the enemies on the way. I reach level 2 from the first hornet I kill. At the top of the stairs I pass the door and pick up a witch's wand before going through it. In this room there's a fountain that restores health by drinking from it. I go through the next door. There are now strange thorns growing on the walls in this room. I get a medicinal moss off the wall and some silver coins in the gap before the door. In the next room a door is covered by those thorns. I open a chest containing the file The Sealing Chains, which explains that the chain the statue was holding at the entrance also keeps the door to the Master's Lair chained shut. I have to find the point of connection and smash it. These points are behind sealed doors requiring the Araklos chain to open, the same door covered by thorns. I climb up a ladder, chain up some rocks and climb up. I go up more stairs to find the chained up door. Up here I find the file Treetop Master. This tells of the creation of the Treetop Master and where its flesh can be found. Next to it I find a panacea, a strong healing item. I go through the door on the right and see a large flower. The file Treetop Thorns is also in here. It basically says that the only way to deal with it is to kill this mother plant here. I shoot the chain at it and it sinks and escapes under the door. Outside I latch it again and give it a good yank to hurt it before it runs off again. I drop down to the previous room using the two ends of the chain to keep the plant tethered in one spot and keep hitting it until it dies. This removes all the thorns. To open the door behind it I attach a chain and keep pulling to unlock it. Inside that door is a chain which I destroyed to unlock the Master's door. Outside is this plant beast with tentacles. Their attacks can poison me but they aren't a problem. Before taking on the Master I return to the room I found the mother plant to loot it. I find a shard of divinity which lets me teleport out of the tower instantly. The rest of it is money. Now I can enter the Master's room. It's a huge tree man that has plant life grow from its feet with each step. In this arena I find an unreadable old note in a box. The Master ignores me until I chain its flesh, the glowing white part in its head. This does a little damage, but I can also hold X to build up the chain gauge to do more damage when I pull. It attacks back by making roots shoot up from the ground towards me. He can also extend branches from his arms and try to hit me with them. Pulling on his glowing hand during this with the chain will stun him and give me the chance to damage him some more. The only other move he gets to pull off is this barrier of roots, but once his health bar is empty, one more pull takes the flesh. The Master tries to take it back, but dies. This also increases the chain's power, extending the bar a little. Leaving the room has me automatically return to the observatory. Mavda is waiting and tells Aaron to give it to Elena. First I can give her the unreadable old note. It's written in ancient Iosian so she can translate it for me. Then I give her the flesh. Elena collapses and has a vision of a man bringing flowers to his wife and asking her to pray that the gods of Ios end the war. She then passes out. At dawn, Aaron talks with Mavda about the Master Flesh. She needs to eat all 12 pieces of Master Flesh to get rid of the curse. The next morning I go back to Mavda to sell the spare flesh I have. The amount you make depends on the quality of the flesh. She also buys whatever files I find. Her stock also expands with every tower I clear. I just buy a medicine and a remedy for now. As I leave, she gives me another news report. This time, knowledge of the curse is spreading through Illyria. Up the stairs on Elena's desk is the file Conquering the Curse. It's written by Elena simply repeating the conditions of the curse. In the basement I find an unreadable old note and an unreadable old text. I try to give Elena these texts, but the game demands I give her a gift just so I know how. I give her the lamp. This leads to a scene of Elena admiring it. There are many little scenes like this you can unlock by giving Elena gifts or becoming closer with her. They all count towards the game's percentage. Now I can request a translation. I can also have her slightly recap the way here. She also worries about the army finding them here since they used to work here. After that I go to sleep to restore my health. I go to leave and get another scene where Elena asks Aaron to promise her he'll be careful. Elena's a weird kind of not silent but kind of protagonist. He will talk and say the most basic things when it wouldn't make sense for him to be quiet, but most of the time he stays silent. Elena makes him perform the Vow of Ios, where they link index fingers and make a promise, but Aaron's too shy for that and runs out. He does stick his hand through the door and hold his finger out for a split second though. The next tower is open, but I have some other things I want to do first, so I go back to Treetop Tower. All I'm doing here is running through the tower looting and gaining experience. I see a beast with a purple mist aura. These are far stronger than regular versions. They deal more damage and have more health, but to make up for it they give more experience. Their appearances are random, but I believe they are more common at night, at least they were in my experience. Depending on where you attach the chain to a dead enemy, the item may change. Here I messed up and latched onto its leg for a large bone. I also remember that I forgot to empty my unneeded items into the trunk, so my capacity is full. I have 30 spots for items in my bag right now. Usually when I end up with a full bag, it's the less useful items that get dropped, the dryad berries, the bodily fluids, the strange grains. After taking the lift to the second floor, I take another next to it. There's 2 locked red doors up here and either a honeycomb or one of the giant plants. While up here I reach level 3. There's also a chest up here with some mercury. I also find the file Treetop Purple Mist explaining what I've already explained. While higher up I check my status and find I'm actually level 4 and I don't know where I missed a level. In the room with the chain I find a sage stone. If you have these equipped it will be used to revive you if you're killed. Equipping items is on a grid, a bit like the inventory in Resident Evil 4. In the room where I found the mother plant I find a dawn chorus. As the name implies it only appears around dawn. Best chance to get it is to wake up at 5 AM as it takes an hour to arrive at the tower. By the master's door I find another good healing item, the elixir. After reaching the top I go back down and kill any newly spawned enemies. I reach level 5 on the way back down. I finally remember I can climb up at this height and find some gunpowder and open the chest for some more mercury. While climbing I see a chest I can't reach. We won't be getting that for a long time. I then stand and wait for Elena's curse to progress. Once the bar reaches the blue part I return to find that she's fine. That's annoying actually, not what I was going for. I believe this is because the game is teaching me about giving Elena flesh and it overrode the curse this time. So I leave and return to the tower. The flesh from my first visit dried out on the way back so I just have to get one more piece first. While doing so I reach level 6 from a beast with purple mist. You can tell the curse has progressed when you get back because the music is different, the colours outside are more muted and the affinity gauge is purple. Returning home to a transformed Elena the first time gets you a scene of her welcoming Aaron back in that form. I need to do this quite a few more times for a couple more scenes. I was hoping to give her a regular beast flesh to fill the curse gauge less and have me waiting less, but after they dried out all I could get was a dripping flesh. I would have also made much more money from Mavda. Strangely, Mavda buys all files from you, including the ones she gives you herself. Using a lump of metal and a piece of mercury, I get my sword its first upgrade. You don't have to do the upgrades in numbered order. As long as you had the parts, you could say get upgrade 6 before upgrade 3. This time I remember to empty my bag. Back to Treetop Tower. I get my first pulsating flesh, the most effective form of flesh. This one refills the curse gauge completely. I get a beast fang by attaching the chain to its head and pulling it after it dies. I climb up and find the file Treetop Plant Food talking about the giant plant enemies. Less than a minute later I kill one of those beasts to reach level 7. Even the little guys can have the purple mist. They're probably worse with it with all the quick attacks. In the next room another purple mist beast gets me to level 8. This time instead of waiting still when I reach the bottom, I do some more fighting to gain more experience. I reach level 9 fighting a honeycomb. This time when I return, Elena is trying to clean up the slime her own transformed body is leaking onto the floor. I give her a beast flesh. For giving Mavda 410 Leots worth of flesh, she gives me mercury and a power stone which when equipped increases attack power. At some point during that I also found a crystal ore which along with 1 mercury and 1 lump of metal gets me the sword 2 upgrade. I rest to restore my health. I talk to Elena who translated the 3 files for me. I get Vessel Testament 1, the Chain of Destiny and the Chain's Meaning. The Chain of Destiny simply tells me what I already know about the Vestra. The chain's meaning tells the story of someone who met Mavda. She told them that the two ends of the Heraklos chain represent light and darkness, and masculine and feminine. Vessel Testament 1 is written by someone who was in despair over endless war and the famine it brought. Wanting the power to change the world, they'd volunteered to become a vessel. Back to Treetop Tower. I reached level 10 killing one of the little plants. The cap is 50 by the way. I reached level 11 from a small beast with purple mist. I returned to Elena after she transformed to give her flesh. I buy a tactical manual from Mavda thinking it's a file needed of 100%. When I go back to Treetop Tower, I remember it's a consumable item that gives you a lot of experience. 17 minutes later, I return after she's transformed to give her flesh. I must have gained levels in there, but missed them skimming through this grinding footage. I'll let you know what level I am next time I catch myself looking at the start screen. The next morning, I talked to Elena about getting used to living there. These give me affinity points that I don't want. Another run through Treetop Tower. This time Elena sees Aaron off and tells him to be careful, but after he leaves, she starts to feel the guilt of him going in there for her. During this run I check my stats and see I'm level 13 at this point. 4th time in a row I put Elena through this. From Mavda I get sword upgrade 3 using a lump of metal, 2 mercury and 2 crystal ore. This adds a second level of charge attack for if I wait until I glow twice while charging. And back to Treetop Tower for more time wasting. This time I get a new scene where a shambling Elena is trying to cook Aaron a meal despite the slime leaking into it, but she can't even hold a ladle in this form. Aaron tries as best he can to comfort her before I give her some flesh. I'll still need to do this some more, but for now I'm finally going to the second tower, Sheer Drop Spire. First thing I do is go left for some sticky mud. The statue of the god this time has the symbol of earth. I can also see that I need to destroy 2 chains to reach the master this time. The path left has a red door, meaning I can only take the door in the back. In this room I meet my first beast with a sword. He isn't that much harder than the regular beast that's backing him up, but then again I am far over level for this part. I attach the chain to this lever and keep pulling to take the lift to the top. I then go through the door. Take out another beast that gets me to level something. To the right I get my first file here, Sheer Drop on Ore. It says that this tower has a lot of ore deposits to mine from. It also has clay layers that ore can attach to. I go left and hook across these gaps. Across the gap is another file, Sheer Drop Gold Ore. It explains gold ore, but I can do that myself, and when you get to it, I then go through the door. In here are some wolves. The game tells me I can use the chain to bind 2 of them together. Striking an enemy linked to another will also damage the other. Aside from the regular wolf stuff you'd expect, they can also spit fireballs. Thanks to my levels, they don't last long. I then go outside and chain onto this ore embedded in clear to climb higher. Up here there's a piece of ore I can mine and then swing into the clear to create my own climbing stone. From there I chain across to another lift and go up. I then use another ore to climb higher. I ignore the lift for now and head towards this door a chain is going into. I also take out this bird that's been following me. One of the ore is holding an amethyst I take too. In this next room I drop down a bit, take out a couple birds and drop lower following the chain through a hole in the wall. I take out all these bats here and go through another hole in the wall to the room with the first lift where I fought the sword beast. I open the chest for a Shard of Divinity and open the door to destroy the first chain. On the way out, Aaron wonders how Elena is. She's sweeping, wondering how Aaron is doing. I knock down a ladder to the ground, creating a shortcut. I drop down and find a file I missed, Sheer Drop the Lifts. A bit later for that now. I return the way I came to that lift I skipped and go up. I walk past the next lift and drop down, lowering a couple more ladders on the way before following another chain through a door. This room has many monsters made of ore, but before I deal with them I find the Sheer Drop Master file. It tells me the Master's flesh is on its back. These monsters are explosive, so throwing one into another takes both out in one. I get my first oil from one of them. This unlocks the door and I can move on. In this next room I open a chest for a sage stone before sliding across this gap. I then chain onto this hook and swing to the next door. I go in and destroy the other chain. I return to the lift I skipped and go up. I see I need an ore though, so I get one and bring it back up. I then lower a ladder so I don't have to do it again and swing across to the Master's door. I head to the back of the Master and wake it up by pulling on its flesh. It attacks first by trying to crush me with its claws. I get an unreadable old note while the Master starts creating rocks on the ground and then smashing them with one giant rock. I just have to keep getting behind him and pulling at his back. He makes it hard with his jumping around and blocking me with rock formations. That's about it though, not the most interesting boss. I pull his flesh out, get my chain upgraded and leave. Elena's curse progressed quite a bit in the time I was out. She's nowhere in the living room. There is a file on the desk though, a slip of the pen. It's a letter from Elena to her family where she talks about how Aaron and her are making a life together there. But he stops as she starts considering marriage. As for Elena, there's a slime trail leading into the cellar. I find an unreadable old note and Elena in the middle.
Aaron, don't worry. I'm fine. Absolutely fine. I promise.
Elena.
Aaron, I'm fine, really. Don't. look shocked.
This is what happens if you let Elena's gauge empty to the last quarter. I didn't intend to let it get this bad right now, but I would have needed to get this scene eventually for 100%. I give her the flesh. This time she dreams of the couple talking about how so many people in their village are dying from the famine brought on by the war, including their neighbour's child. Later that night, Mavda checks in on them. Elena brings up her dreams, how the towers were in them but without the scar underneath them. Mavda decides to look into it. The next morning, Elena's bed is empty and Aaron can hear singing. But first I sell my flesh and files to Mavda. I buy a leather belt from her. She gives me the file Bounty on her head that tells of the bounty put on Aaron and Elena by the army. People from Elena's village have been questioned and they have heard that Aaron was a soldier from the kingdom of Athos. Athos is a neighbouring country that was at war with Illyria for years, so they think Aaron is a spy and are calling for an attack on Athos as revenge. I head outside to check on Elena and watch her sing. Since it's the same song, Aaron remembers the Harvest Festival while the narrator lets us know that this is the year 511 of the Unified Era. We then basically see what we already know. After she stops, Elena talks about how happy she was to be chosen as the festival maiden, before the curse struck. Aaron once again remembers the confusion and being found by Mavda. Aaron promises to himself that he'll never let Elena transform again. I am going to make him break that promise. I give Elena the files for translating and give her the leather belt I bought. She uses it to add 10 extra item slots to my bag. I then return to Sheardrop Spire to basically do what I did after I finished Treetop Tower. In the outdoor area I drag an ore down to the bottom and use it to climb to this little platform for a diamond. Before the first lift in this area I jump into this middle bit I skipped the first time. I find the Sheardrop Explosion file that talks about those enemies made of explosive ore. I spawned another level here. From what I saw later on, I believe this is me hitting level 16. Thanks to the last flesh Elena had being a master flesh, I'm in here for a while. 25 minutes it took to get her to transform again. I give her some flesh and give the rest to Mavda. The 430 Leots worth I give her has to reward me with a panacea and a pot of dryad. That's a gift for Elena, so it gets put in the trunk until it's safe to give her presents. I get the sword 4 upgrade for 3 lumps of metal, 1 mercury and 2 oil. After resting I get Vessel Testament 2 and Eternal Blessings from Elena. Vessel Testament 2 is the story of a medic who became a vessel to atone for euthanizing patients begging for death during the war. Not for the victims, so that he didn't have to hear their cries. Eternal Blessings looks to be some kind of Iosian prayer. Back to Sheardrop Spire. I get my first fire ore from one of the walls. I mess up this time and return to the observatory just before the curse progresses, so I had to rush back to Treetop Tower for one more bit of flesh and losing all the others I'd built up. More flesh for Elena. The next morning she talks about how her mind is also affected in the transformation. Well, she can look forward to it because I'm going back to Sheardrop Spire. 15 minutes later I'm back to cure her again. This time I go back to Treetop Tower to get at least one more Dawn Chorus. When I return, Aaron sees Elena scratching at her mutated parts, trying to tear them off. When she notices Aaron is here, she just smiles and apologises for the mess. I give her the flesh. I only need to have her transform one more time. That last Dawn Chorus was to make a mercury with Mavda to be used along with an nymph water and 2 tough pelts from the wolf beasts on making a tanned leather. I give it to Elena to expand my bag to 50 item slots. Next I choose to move on to the third tower, Wellspring Steeple. 2 chains to destroy again, and this time the god of Ios has the symbol of water. Only one door in the back of this room. It leads to 2 walkways with a giant unmoving water wheel in the middle. I take out the sword beast, head to the right and swing across to deal with another. There are 3 doors on this side and I take the one furthest from the screen. The door locks behind me and I have to take care of these beasts that jump out of water to dive at me. The first one I kill gets me a level up and I pull my first tough scale from it. They have a water spitting attack that gives me a status effect that lowers my attack damage. While finding the last one, I open the chest in here for a Shard of Divinity. I then kill the last one and leave the way I came. The door next to it is locked from the other side, so I'm going through the one closest to the screen. I pull this large box so I can climb up to the staircase. I go up them all and through the door at the top leading to the second level of the water wheel room. Not much to do other than go left through the next door. Here there's a gap that's just too big to jump across. I grab the box of the chain, pull it further down and use it to make the jump. In the bottom right corner is the first file of this tower, Wellspring Watergate. It talks about the water wheel and how to operate it. I then go up the stairs and through the door. This takes me to the top level of the water wheel room. I head forward, side-load this cap and open the chest for a new weapon, the Twin Blades. These are faster than the Aphosian sword, but weaker. I stick with the sword for now. I then use a chain to pull out this switch. Nothing happens yet, but the camera points out another. At the gap I just crossed, I drop down and enter the door with a chain going through it. In this room is my first armoured beast with a large lance. These can be a pain to deal with while they have backup. I aim the chain at its helmet and destroy it. This must be done to be able to damage it. After that it just takes a lot of hits to kill, even with me this over-leveled. I go past the red locked door and open the sealed door to destroy the first chain. Aaron thinks about Elena again. She's just translating for him right now. I go back to the water wheel room and from the door I exited from, follow the floor left to another door. This room is another set of stairs. Next to the door is the file Wellspring the Wheel. This is just background info on how and why the wheel was built. I drop down to the bottom and open up that locked door back on the first floor. I then go through the door at the top of the stairs. Here I can pull the switch on the other side to activate the water wheel. There are parts I can attach to with the chain while the wheel moves. I then ride it around until I can hook and swing to this door at the top. I find my first Vitalium, which I never use, and through the door I find Mobilium, which I also never use. These are for temporary stat boosts. Going up these stairs I check and see I'm level 18. By the door at the top I find the file Wellspring My Fish, talking about fish beasts we'll be seeing very soon. As in the next room. There's a huge rising tower of water in the middle of this room. In said water is the fish beasts. They swing by quick but give me just enough time to pull them out of the water with the chain and kill them. In the other corner of this room is the Wellspring Master file. There is a fuckable wall that travel up the water tower that I can ride up. The first one I ride up takes me to the next sealed door. I find a rainbow scale in here and destroy the last chain. I then ride a wall up to another door. This takes me outside. I walk past the boss door for now and go through the door on the other side. This just leads me back into the previous room for a panacea. Time to take on the Master. The flesh travels along this Master's body along with these little tracks. While I get my first hit in, he gets me with a stream of water. You can also fire these slow moving water orbs that you can destroy with the chain. I also make sure to get the unreadable old note in here. But yeah, those are his only 2 attacks until he reaches half health. Then he grows out some tentacles that he tries to stab me with. The more attacks also become more frequent. His last attack is this big tantrum with all 4 tentacles. But this one is kinda easy, if time consuming on the first try, and I take his flesh and get my chain upgrade. Before I help out Elena, I pick up the file On Beast Flesh from her desk. This is Elena writing down how the 3 levels of flesh work, but I've already explained that. There's also the file The Cellar, basically telling me that I can find files down there. She gets up to greet me, but I ignore her and go to the cellar. I find reconstruction plans, saying that the towers were left in disrepair for 450 years, but 50 years ago the Illyrian army started reconstructing it into a military base to defend from any possible threats from Athos. This reconstruction involves harnessing the Master's powers. Now Elena can have the Master Flesh, but this raises my affinity with her to the next level. This won't do. By now she's still not enjoying eating flesh, but she's at least getting used to it and no longer gagging. This time she dreams of the couple from her first dream and their son, Reuben. Reuben is asking his father to make him a toy soldier to go with his horse. Both Reuben and his father look very familiar. His parents can be seen doing the vow of Ios and talking about how happy they are. Once again Mavda checks on us the next morning. She's been researching and believes that Elena's dreams are linked to the Masters whose flesh she's eaten. I have a few questions to ask her now. She tells me that the Masters are living weapons created 50 years ago. Around the time the reconstruction began actually. They were created from the Illyrian army's experiments on living things. She still doesn't know why Elena is dreaming though. She says that the scar is rumoured to lead to the otherworld, and that the rarer items I find in the towers are otherworld items. I think this is actually the last time we ever hear about any otherworld. When she's done, I sell her my flesh and files. She has new stock thanks to doing shady business with the Illyrian army. She's not telling them about us though, of course. She says although they want to find us, they don't have time. They're still having skirmishes with Athos despite the supposed peace between them. For 320 liots of flesh, she gives me quality metal and a sage stone. I get the Twin Blades 1 upgrade for a tough scale, amethyst and mercury, along with Twin Blades 2 for 2 tough scales, a diamond and a crystal ore. Finally, she gives me the news file Water Rage again about a planned retaliation against Athos for the Harvest Festival, accusing the incident of being a plan to murder their monarch. I give Elena the text for translation. Now to lower Elena's affinity back to below level 1. I just keep trying to give her something she doesn't like, such as this large bone. Every time I try to give it to her, affinity drops. I do that for a bit, and when I go to leave, Elena reminds Aaron of the time they met 3 years earlier. Aaron escaped from a battle with Valyria and collapsed near a village close to Helicon, the Imperial capital. Elena then found him unconscious and took him home. Her parents weren't thrilled with her bringing an enemy soldier home, but agreed she couldn't just leave the wounded man to die. When Aaron wakes up, Elena promises him he's safe with her. Back in the present, Elena once again apologises for him having to go into the towers. I repay that apology by returning to Wellspring Steeple to get the last transformation cutscene. This time I want to empty the gauge as far as I can without getting a game over. I hit level 19. I also swapped over Twin Blades just so they see a bit of use, but I prefer the sword so I swap back. I also reached level 20 killing the monster that made me swap back. I return when the gauge reaches the red but find it's still only the second phase of transformation. That's 35 minutes of flesh collecting lost. So it's another detour to the treetop tower for more flesh. Now when I go back she's reached the third phase of the curse. This time she's in the courtyard.
Elena.
Been waiting. to see you.
Not gonna lie, this one is pretty disturbing. Luckily for her, this is the last scene to unlock regarding transformations. I don't have to deliberately do this again. After I rest, Elena gives me the translated Vessel Testament 3. This one is a story of a ship captain who became a vessel after becoming tired of seeing the young sent off to die in war. No more time wasting / grinding sessions now, it's time for the 4th tower, Crimson Keep. This time the god of Vios has the symbol of fire. I take the door on the left to a mostly dark room filled with wolves. The game teaches me the chain swing attack which demolishes most of them. One gets a fireball on me, giving me a burn status that slowly deals damage over time. After killing them all, I find the file Crimson Torches. It tells me of moths that are attracted to torches around here and that any unlit torches I find can be lit using burning coals. The other door in here takes me to some stairs. The door at the top takes me to a dark room with some burning coals. I drag some out and take them to the first unlit torch I find. During this I get moths after me and I find crimson red beasts in a box. It talks about large red beasts with malleable bodies that we'll be seeing later. I then slam the coal into the torch to light it. I light the next torch in front of this door, then climb along the rocks next to it. On the other side I find some sacred ashes. I then return to the door and go through it. I find an Inferno bomb, an attack item in the bottom right corner of this room before I follow the chain to the next door. The next room contains the red beasts mentioned in the file. They throw fireballs at me and grow larger when left. I have to keep pulling them with the chain until they shrink to death. They mostly drop oil but have a rare chance of dropping a crystal ore. When they're gone I can open the sealed door and destroy the first chain. Meanwhile Elena is struggling to reach a book in the cellar that she thinks will help. I go back in another room and find my first tiger beasts. They only manage to get a couple claw swipes out before I kill them. I return to the dark room and climb across the rocks again. I light another torch and go through the door next to it, taking me outside. I reach level 21 here from a tiger with purple mist. I then climb up to this lever which when pulled reveals some hooks. I'm on a timer though while the lever moves back. I get up there and lower a ladder. I then enter the door into this foundry. There's a row of fire blocking the centre path and the left path, but the chain can reach this lever through the fire which turns off that fire. I get a paralysis bomb from the boxes behind it. I then pull on the other lever here to turn off the fire in the middle path, but I get distracted by enemies and run out of time. I get through and reach the ladder next time. I chain over to these handles and make my way across to this ladder I chain up to. I climb up and chain across to the second sealed door. I first hit a switch that turns off all the fire, find the Crimson Master file next to it, and unlock the door. I destroy the chain and unlock the Master door. From the ladder I swing across to more handles, but falling molten metal knocks me off and respawns me at the door. I make it across next time, chain onto a grate and reach the higher level of this room. I then lower a ladder for a shortcut. From the middle, I climb up to the right and swing across to another platform. I open the chest for some mercury and go through the door. This takes me back outside. I can swing from here, but the high pressure steam would knock me off. So I first pull a lever to get rid of this firewall, then climb up to another that turns off the steam. I can now swing up to the master door. First I pick up a detonation ore to the left before going in. I swing across to the area in the middle, get another unreadable old note and pull on the flesh in the master's middle. He wakes up and dives into the lava. He attacks by breathing fire at me and even manages to knock me off the arena. To reveal the flesh again I have to use a chain to put out the different flaming segments of his body, the head, both shoulders and both arms. At this point he'll start creating flaming swords and swinging them at me. After the fires are out I can get some damage in before he goes back into the lava and gets it back. Now he'll start punching the ground and creating fire tornadoes. 2 more full power chain yanks and I have his flesh and a bigger chain gauge. Since I did all that in one visit, Elena is back to a second transformed state. On the shelves I find an unreadable old text and the courtyard on Elena's desk which says I can get dryad berries from the birds there. In the cellar I find a wandering people which says that the Vestra were forced from their homeland and forced to carry the Heraclos chain for the last 500 years while it weakened. 50 years ago they worked with Illyria in exchange for assistance regaining their homeland. I then give Elena the flesh. Her dream has the husband return home with very little food thanks to the famine. They give most of the food to Reuben, pretending they just aren't hungry to not worry him. Meanwhile they worry because food will become even scarcer as the war goes on. After Elena passes out she dreams of the Harvest Festival and wakes up in shock to discover she's torn up her bedsheets in her sleep. Meanwhile Aaron pretends to be asleep, having heard everything. Then some footage got corrupted. I can tell that for giving Mavdra the 500 liats of flesh I got a music box, an ambrosia and a guardstone. I get Twin Blades 4 by using 2 rainbow scales, a crystal ore and some mercury. This time the report she gives me is the Curse's Mark, written by the Vestra, that lists the symptoms of the curse we already know about. I give Elena the text I need translating. I then go back to Crimson Keep because I feel I missed something. I check out the back room behind the statue at the beginning. This is the outside room I lowered the ladder earlier, but there were actually multiple ladders to lower on the way down, so the shortcut is still unavailable. In the dark room I missed a chest with the Shard of Divinity, but that footage was also corrupted. I go down the ladder I lowered earlier and lower some more to create the shortcut. I also find the file Crimson the Furnace. That information is also useless to me now. Higher up in the foundry I find Crimson the Vents, also useless to me now. That's all I find and I return to the observatory. I get a new scene where Elena finds Elena already waiting for him while singing. She can also start having pulsating flesh now, since I want all the time I can get for the next few towers. She's starting to smile now while eating it. That's worrisome. She also translated some texts. This Old Testament 4 has a blacksmith become a vessel after seeing an enemy soldier killed by a weapon he forged and feeling responsible. The 12 Laws talks of the 12 Laws of Ios. They actually refer to the light and dark sides of the 6 elements that make up the world: wood, earth, fire, water, metal and light. Male gods of Ios govern light and the female shadow. After seeing Mavda and saving, the footage froze here. If something happened in that minute and a half, I can't remember what it was. But it's a new recording now and I'm off to the 5th tower, Ironclad Turret. This time the god has 3 chains to break and the symbol of metal. I take the door left and kill these lizards clinging to the walls. I go up the stairs and find Ironclad the lifts. It talks of these lifts next to it. Once I hit this switch, lifts will start moving along these tracks. I can use the chain to ride them to the door. In this room I have 2 beasts with helmets and chain clubs attached to their hands. Like the others, they can only be damaged after their helmets are destroyed. But first I find a military scythe in the chest behind them. It's stronger than the sword but slower. I'll be sticking with this from now on. I use it to kill both beasts and go through the next door. There's a hole in the ground but I ignore it for now and go through the door on the right. There's a switch here that changes the direction of the lift track. The lever to activate them is on the other side of the room. I ride it across and go through the door. I reach level 22 in here, killing a lance beast. I go up the stairs and through the first door I see. First thing I do is chain onto this ladder for an unreadable old note in the chest. I drop down and climb another ladder at the other end of the room. I activate a switch that sets off all the pistons in this room and unlocks a door. I find a defang bomb up here and go through the door I unlocked. I hit a switch in here to activate the track. The hole leads to the room with a hole in from earlier. I use the lift to ride up to the next floor. I get another stat booster, a fortifica from a box, and go through the door, opening a chest for another shard of divinity. I then ride the lift to the top floor, where there's a switch to reverse the tracks. But the door up here is locked on the other side. I end up dropping down the hole to the bottom floor. Here I can unlock a door, creating a shortcut from the entrance. I then go through the door on the left. I take out all the walls in here and find Ironclad Expansion. It talks about a push for more weapons while Athos and 2 other kingdoms, Surtees and Fina, are at war with Illyria. But their machines have started stopping. I also find the Ironclad Master File. I ride the lift back up from the door I started from. I then go right and smash this orange shit to get the piston moving again. This lets me get to the sealed door so I can smash the first chain. Elena is waiting outside for Aaron to come back. She's going to be waiting a while. I then ride the lift next to the piston up. At the top I break free another piston, then jump across the gap for an abyss ingot. I then use the chain to break free another. I then drop down and take the lift on the far right of the room. I break free another piston on the way up. I hit a switch to change a track and ride further up. I ride another lift up and break free one more piston before climbing the ladder next to it. The next sealed door is here and I can smash the second chain. I then return to the room where I first learned to change a track and take the other path to the last sealed door and destroy the final chain. Time to start climbing all these pistons. I jump across one, break free another, run around to the next, jump over to a ladder, climb it, swing across a gap, climb some steps, ride a lift, break free another piston and jump across. Ride another lift up, ride a lift along to another platform and then higher up, jump across and climb up. Here I can open that locked door, creating another shortcut. I decide to use a Shard of Divinity to return to the observatory. On the shelf I find an unreadable old text and from the roof on Elena's desk. It's about the view. I then give Elena some flesh. 260 layouts of flesh from Ironclad Turret gets me a certain carpet and skill band. One's a gift so it goes in the trunk. The skill band I equip because it boosts experience earned. I get the upgrade Scythe 6 for 2 bodily fluids, 2 abyss ingots and 2 large bones. I then get Scythe 3 for 2 large bones, a beast fang and a sticky mud. I give Elena the text to translate and get back on over to Ironclad Turret. Using the 2 shortcuts I opened, I get back to where I left from in no time. I take the other door up here, head up the stairs and go through the door. I then go up the stairs to the master door. I spot a locked red door to the right before I enter. This time the master isn't waiting for me to initiate, he drops down from the ceiling. He has horizontal and vertical slashes with his 2 blades. After enough hits his body overheats and he drops down, revealing the flesh in his abdomen. I do that twice more until he hits half health. He only really gains 1 new attack, a ground slam that has rocks fall from the ceiling. It merely just becomes more aggressive, keeping up attacks for longer. I keep up the strategy until I had that flesh. When I return, Elena's desk has the files The Mark on My Back and Text Index. The cellar has the final experiment which details discovery on the creation of the Masters by researching the Heraklos chain. However, they then decided to cut ties with the Vestra, feeling that their ancestors relied on them too much. It ends on the plan to use a human for the final 13th Master. I then give Elena the Master Flesh. She's actually enjoying it and licking her lips now. That's more worrisome. This time she dreams of the creation of the Scar, hearing a woman's voice talk about sacrifice. Later that night, Aaron dreams of a time when Elena cut his hair, using the dirtiest looking comb I've ever seen. Aaron overhears the comments from neighbours about them, but Elena doesn't care. When she asks if anyone in Athos has hair like his, Aaron instead remembers being in a war zone, terrified. That memory wakes him up. From Mavda, I get Scythe upgrade 1 for a large bone, Witcher's Wand and Mercury, unlocking its second charge attack. She gives me Tightening Borders. I report about the army tightening Illyria's borders to stop Eren and Elena from fleeing the kingdom. At some point I also hit level 23 but missed it. This time 5 more towers have opened at once, but first I need to go back to Ironclad Turret. I return to the Master's room and drop down below to find the unreadable old note. On the way out I hit level 24. When I return, Elena is waiting for me, asking for flesh like a junkie. She snaps out of it and I give her more to translate. She also apologises for making everyone think he's a criminal and promises to clear his name when they return to her village. I can take on the next 5 towers in any order I want, but I'll just go in list order, starting with Arcadian Tower. As we can see by the preview, it looks very similar to the Treetop Tower. This time the statue is of a goddess of Ice with the wood symbol. The next 5 towers are parallels to the first 5, but now we're representing the shadow side of the 12 laws with the goddesses. As an extra touch, all the songs that had the male choir now have a female choir in these towers. The door on the left is locked, so I go through the door in the back. I ignore the lift in this room for now and go through the other door. It leads to a kind of storeroom with cocoons that hatch into giant moths. They send out poison spores but are easy to beat down. I end up getting poisoned by one's regular attack though. I also get a poison bomb from a box. There's a red locked door in here, so I start climbing. I find the file Arcadian Toxic Moths. Already dealt with them. The next lift, next to the one I used, is covered in yellow thorns. I go through the door and swing across to the other side, passing another red locked door on the way. Through the next door, the room is covered in purple thorns. Can't do anything in here, so it's on to the next room. In here I reach level 25, killing a moth. The next room has both the yellow and purple mother plants. The yellow one is guarded by purple thorns, so I have to deal with the purple one first. I chase it back 2 rooms and kill it, getting rid of the purple thorns. After brain farting and forgetting where I was going, I return to this room and find a setting sun on the floor. I push this box to climb up to a chest containing the file Arcadian Thorns. Another one that's just a bit too late. With the purple thorns gone, I take on the yellow mother plant. This one doesn't leave the room before I kill it. With the thorns gone, I drop down to the room below to be met by electric wolves. Their electricity doesn't do them any good and they die quick. Down here I open up the door back to the entrance and then open the sealed door to destroy the first chain. While this is going on, Elena is tidying up Eren's desk. I return to the room with the lifts and with the thorns gone, I can get an unreadable grimy note from the chest and take the next lift up. There's another lift on the next floor, but this one's covered in red thorns. The next room has nothing big in it. The room after has blue thorns surrounding its mother plant. I manage to provoke it into escape into one of the next rooms. The very next room has me reach level 26 from another moth. The mother plant is in the next room with one of those large plant beasts and 2 of the smaller ones. I manage to chain up the mother plant and kill it quickly. With the blue thorns gone, I kill the rest of the enemies and go back 2 rooms. With no more blue thorns, I can open the sealed door and destroy the second chain. I return to the room I killed the blue plant in and keep going. I go up another staircase and find the Arcadian Master file. Through the hole in the wall is the red mother plant, but I can't reach it. Instead there are these plant bombs on the ground I can grab and throw at it. It only moves along that tree root up there, so it doesn't take long to kill. That's all thorns removed. They were also blocking the last sealed door, so now I can destroy the final chain. Elena's curse gauge is getting empty, so I use the Shard of Divinity to walk back and give her the flesh. I rest until Elena wakes up to get the translated Vessel Testament 5 and the Vow of Ios before giving her the new stuff to translate. Vessel Testament 5 has a man become a vessel due to being sick of fighting in wars and killing others. The Vow of Ios is one of those lover dies at war, spirit visits in their sleep stories that is the origin of the linking fingers. I get back to the tower. With the red thorns gone, I can now take the next lift up and go through the door. I fight my way through the next room to the door, picking up my first corrosion bomb and reaching level 27 from a small beast with purple mist. In the next room I find a gleaming amber and enter the Master's room. I get the unreadable old note first thing. For this Master I have to pull her out of the light in the back of the room and keep hitting her while avoiding her swipes. After enough hits the flesh reveals itself and I can get to pulling it. During this she also spits out the plant bombs. Eventually she'll escape to the light to hide her flesh again and I'll have to repeat the process. Once she reaches half health she gets some more devastating swipes with a bigger area of effect. But the strategy stays the same until I yank out that flesh and get my chain upgrade. Elena gives me the Alchemy Teachings 2 she translated just in time for me to give her more to translate before stuffing her face with Master Flesh. This put her affinity up to level 2, gotta deal with that again. In this next dream, Reuben's mother is desperately trying to find him. A bystander tells her he went to the main street to watch a soldiers march. She finds his horse toy destroyed. He dropped it, went to pick it up, and the horse trampled him to death. No one even tried to help him, not wanting to interrupt the march. The dream ending on his mother's screams of despair. This time, just before passing out, she starts to crave more flesh before coming to her senses and wondering what's happening to her. The next morning, Eren wakes up to find Elena missing. I head up to the roof and find her standing at the edge overlooking the scar in a trance. Eren shouting snaps her out of it and she backs away in terror and starts crying. She blames herself for this situation and starts scratching her arms enough to make them bleed. As someone who has been in Eren's position for this latter part, seeing that happen many times in the last few years, it hit close to home. When she asks if Eren still loves her even when she's a beast, he simply replies by performing the Vow of Ios with her. They then return inside. From Mavda I get Scythe upgrade 5 using 2 bodily fluids, 2 sacred ashes and some mercury. She gives me a file named The Scar. What we do learn in this is that the army denies the existence of the towers, simply saying that the area is too hazardous for civilians. They based themselves there 60 years ago, but then sealed off the towers 50 years ago after some cataclysm happened. After that, I keep trying to give Elena another large bone to lower affinity. One last tower for this episode with Rockshard Rampart. As you can guess, this is a harder equivalent of Sheer Drop Spire. The door in the back is a blue locked door, meaning I can only go through the door on the right. I go up the stairs and through the door. This takes me outside. I have more raw shenanigans to do here. I have to get a piece from the wall, break it in two, put a piece into the wall, chain over to it to open the chest for the file Rockshard Mining, then throw the other piece into the edge of the higher up wall and climb up. Up here there's more orange shit to destroy to free a lift which I use to get even higher. The first enemy I kill after getting off it raises me to level 28. After this is another new enemy, these pillbugs. They have armoured masks so you have to hit them from behind to do damage. I take the next lift up but it doesn't go very far, so I move on. I then take the next lift to the top and swing across. I walk past a red locked door and use R to climb across to the first sealed door already. I destroy the chain and we see what Elena's up to again. She's looking in the cellar again for more bugs to help. I go back the way I came, drop into the gap I swung over to the hallway below. There's only a locked door here, but suddenly a Minotaur bursts through that door. He can hit me with his horns. In fact, that's all he pulls off before I kill him. I go through the doorway he opened to find another red locked door, but there's also an ore in here, which I miss and go looking around, dropping myself into the abyss. This respawns me at the sealed door where I see a ladder I missed, so I lower it and climb down. I then go through the door. There is another red locked door here and a hole leading outside. The lift is stuck further up, so I have to use a chain to climb these pieces of white gold ore. They can't keep Aaron's weight long before crumbling, but they will respawn. When I get close to the lift I break it free. While it lowers I pull an Akanos stone off the wall. I keep climbing the ore to find the master's door, but there are still two more chains. I follow one to another door in this room. The door locks and I have to take out all the pillbugs to move forward. In this next room I lower another ladder and use more ore to get to the sealed door. I actually get killed by a pillbug outside it. Thankfully I had a sage stone equipped. I kill it, go inside and break the second chain. I go down the ladder and drop down to some rocks to swing to this floor just above the goddess's head. Here I reach level 29, killing a small beast with purple mist. The only door in here is locked, so I drop down and return to the first outdoor room. I raise a second lift here and destroy the ore under it so it can lower further, taking me to a chest containing a blast stone. I grab an ore from below and try carrying it all the way up to use it, but it despawns after a certain point. I'm stumped, give up, and return to the observatory. In the cellar I find the Cataclysm talking of the final experiment that failed and created the Scar. Thousands of people working in the towers were killed during this. The survivors are confused at how the towers remain and how they got chained to the land. I give Elena the flesh. From Mavda I get Twin Blades upgrade free using a tough scale, amethyst, diamond and 2 lumps of metal. After resting I go back in. I finally notice that ore I missed and as soon as I pull it free another Minotaur bursts through the opposite wall. Killing it gets me to level 30. I pull some ore out into the hallway and use it to climb this wall. At the top I get the Rockshard Master file. I then use the white gold ore to follow the chain down to the bottom and through the door. Here I can open the locked door leading just above the goddess. I then drop down and unlock the door behind the goddess at the entrance. I pull some more into the lift to take it up and use it to reach the sealed door. There I destroy the last chain, and I already know where the master's door is. But first I take an ore up this lift and use it to reach this room. It has the Rockshard Minotaur file. I make it back to the master's door and grab a shadow ore off the wall. I get the unreadable old note and the master bursts from the ground underneath me. Silly her, that exposes me to the flesh on the back of her head right away. Whenever you start dealing flesh damage, she starts walking to the wall and climbs it to make me fall off. When she lands, she lays an egg that I fling at her. This makes the bottoms of her legs glow. I keep hitting the legs to make them fully glow. When the legs are all fully glowing, she falls over. I then have to chain onto her tail, wait until she gets up, then drop on her back to get back to the flesh. I can also hurt her legs further to slow her walk to the wall. Just keep this up until she loses half her health. Like the others, she's now more aggressive. She tries crushing me under her legs and running me over. Now the egg she lay explode into many shards, but just keep it up and pull that flesh out. I return to Elena who's finished translating Vessel Testament 6 and Alchemist Duty 1. I give her more to translate and the Master Flesh. This time her dream is about the strain Reuben's death has had on his parents. His mother still makes him a meal every day to help herself cope, but it's causing his father much pain. Even then, they still know they have each other. That night, Elena gives me a file she found, Ancient Masters. It reveals that the masters I've been fighting are attempts to recreate previous masters from 500 years ago, and that the Vestra helped. So we call him Mavda. She confirms that the current masters were based on older masters from 500 years ago. She clearly knows more, but isn't giving out much useful information. She leaves and Elena wonders if they can even trust Mavda. The next morning I get a tactical manual for giving Mavda 270 lios of flesh. I also get Scythe Upgrade 4 using 2 bodily fluids, a large bone, 3 lots of oil and some mercury. Then Scythe 7 with 3 bodily fluids, an Akanos stone, 2 setting suns and some mercury. This gets me the Scythe's third charge attack. In the cellar there's an unreadable old text I give to Elena, and that's it for Pandora's Tower this episode. I'm at exactly 50% completion. Playing this through at the start of lockdown was a fun time. It was nice thinking back to the time when I got it, the happiest time of my life. Of course, considering what's happened since, it's very painful to think about, but the game is still fun. I can't hold what happened afterwards against it.